Good morning, everyone. This is a new episode of The Energy of Houses and Properties with myself and Aisha Rose Melodie Hassan. And I'll be waiting for her to log on so I can invite her. Here we go. That should work. There she comes. Yay. Yay.
Oh my God.
That's a lovely view. Okay, we try again. I'm inviting Aisha at the moment. And I see people logging on, so if you have any questions, drop them in the comments for us. And I'd like to take the opportunity to tell you about Aisha's project. She's launching a new Sacred Blueprint series, and I think in 10 days or so. And if you visit the Sacred Blueprint series.com, you can see what it's all about and ask for the invite. There Aisha is again. Let's see if it works. And she turned the camera around. And let's wait a little bit. It always takes a little bit of a while. And I'll let you in. Again. Aisha, you can't get in. I'm inviting you. Yeah, now it works. Yay!
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was just telling about your Sacred Blueprint series. It starts in about 10 days or so?
Yes, it starts March 14th. It's an 8-day series back to back. It's free to join. And we've got an amazing lineup of earth energy experts. Last season, Nicky Koopmans, you were with us, and it was such a valuable experience to have you join. And this time around, we've got more people who are involved in the energetics of houses and properties, and it's an international group. So yes, please join. You need to go to the Sacred Blueprint series. Oh, can I even type this in? The Sacred Blueprint series.com.
Yeah, and you can see all the info on your profile. So after our live, you can hop on over and check out the details. And it's an amazing lineup. I've seen it, and I'm looking forward to it. So yeah.
Yes, yes.
So it's been a while. How have you been?
Oh, it's been a full week, and it's been going well. I've been mentoring women architects and designers in how to bridge spiritual wisdom with architecture, and I'm so lit up with the work that I'm doing. And each of them are different. Each of them have a different modality they want to birth based on their signature energy, and that's what I'm really trying to bring forward. I'm very much of the future, and I encourage women to not hang on to the old forms, the old structures, even if it is the spiritual ones too, like energetic ones. And I encourage them to we create a sacred vessel. It's a 6-month program, and we do everything from dive deep into their mindset around being visible. Being visible. We dive into how to craft their offers so that they are shining with light and successful and attracting the clients that they want. Plus, we dive into the geomancy of it, how to master the art of co-creative property design. And so I'm so lit up about it. And yeah, and just recently partnered with someone in Ontario to work on a commercial size healing center. So it's great. I'm having a lot of fun, and the influx of work is making me look at my team, building my team more. We can't do it alone, man, if we want to grow at a certain scale. So yeah, I'm doing well, and yeah, taking it one step at a time. How are you doing, Nikki? How's your week been? How's your couple weeks been?
Yeah, busy with a lot of family stuff, I have to say. Things that need to be arranged, and new schools and all that kind of stuff. And I'm having a couple of projects coming up as well. I'm working on a website. So yeah, things are moving, which is good.
Yeah, you've got the personal power place program, right? It's a program that you designed.
Yeah, and I'm offering it now one-on-one. And yeah, people are starting to get interested. So yeah, if you want to do this with me, totally on a personal level, just connect with me and send me an email so we can have a chat about it and see what your wishes are. Yeah. So maybe we could, open up the floor for questions, because some questions have come in. And people are interested in a more practical way or how-tos of connecting with your house and your property.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to start with that.
There was a question that came through. Yeah, sure. And you shared a question that came through regarding how to, not only connect with your house and property, but connect with the energies there. And what kind of energies do we encounter there, right? Is that what you're meaning? Yeah.
Well, how I interpreted that question was, how do you know what energies are there? Well,
right.
First of all, I want to say you don't have to put in any effort to connect with the energies in the house by just being there, because it is impossible to not connect with it. You are always in relationship with your environment, always. Even if you don't want to, you're breathing the environment. So it's impossible to not feel connected to it. So only what it takes is awareness. And being aware is a skill. And skills you can practice and exercise.
Yeah.
So the best way, the easiest way, I would say, to do is just sit in the room you want to experience. It's the most easiest and simple way to explain how to connect with the space. Just sit in the room and watch everything your body is registering. Let's say that. All the senses. You can focus one sense at a time, and I would advise to use your eyes as the last sense to use, because we get distracted by what we see quite easily. So focus first on the things you hear. Focus on what you feel. Focus on what you taste, what you smell. And the very, very last thing is what you see. It's the easiest way to connect to the energies. And you can widen your awareness to the space of the room. So you can make yourself bigger, or make your energy bigger, or your awareness bigger, or your aura bigger, whatever way you want to call it, and extend that awareness. And that is like a muscle you need to exercise. And if you can exercise it and practice it, then it becomes a choice whether to be aware or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is so, I love how we're getting down to the fundamentals, the first baby steps, almost the first steps to being present, right? Being present. And I love that you bring this, you know, that you just say, okay, we're all connected, so it's not possible to not be connected. I think that the dualistic world, the mindset that has been anchored in on the planet for so long, right? The dualism makes us think that we are not connected, right? So I love that you bring that truth to the table, Nicky. And then, you know, if you take that as a given, the trick is, right, to exercise the muscle of awareness in various ways. The awareness of our body, awareness of higher self, and it's that piece. You know, everyone has that capacity to pull themselves out of the situation and look down upon themselves and look with an objective perspective. Some more than others. That's definitely a great tool. And I love what you bring forward about not seeing. Now, of course, there are some people who immediately are clairvoyant, and they are seers. I'm not a seer per se, although visions do come inwardly. I love that idea too, Nicky, I think that's a really good place to start, to tune into what the body is saying, your senses, hearing, smelling, and lastly, observe with the eyes. So it's really cultivating this feeling sense, the feeling perception, the feeling that comes within the inner world. And as you were speaking, what I was actually stepping into that exercise as you were speaking, and I find it very helpful to do breathing to do breathing exercises, taking a few breaths, being in alignment with the axis mundi, right, with earth and sky, grounding your feet in the earth. You can even do it while sitting, right? You can even ground your tailbone into the earth and have that alignment. Then do what Nicky says, but often the intuitions come really quickly. I do find that that's what happens with most of us. Even if you don't have to be a trained energy healer or a trained geomancer or whatever. I think that the intuitions come quite quickly, like whispers through. And what the mind does often is doubt them.
Mm-hmm.
The mind often doubts them.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get to be fully confident in the intuitions I was receiving. They were coming so quickly, so clearly. I'm like, it can't be that easy, right? Like it can't be that easy. And so it's that window. There's a certain window of space before the mind takes over that you listen to. And of course, as you train, as you practice more and more, you can hold, right, Nikki? You can hold that window, that space, and in fact, do a renovation. You can extend the size of the window, extend the duration, the length, and hold the window for 2 hours. But in the first moments of practice, that window can be a few seconds.
Yeah, or even less. It goes really, really quickly, and you have to be aware, and then you have to, trust your instincts. And it helps if you do that with a group of people, so you can compare.
Yeah.
So you can compare experiences, because everyone has a different natural first influx of information. Like you said, some people see things better, other people hear things, other people feel things, or they have all kinds of colors. And you need to learn your internal language, what it means to you. And you can only do that by comparing what other people's are experience, so you can verify, so you can build that self-confidence in your intuition.
Yeah. And in the group work, I mean, group work is so powerful. You then also discover commonalities. A lot, like, oh my God, you saw that tree in your vision too? Or, oh yeah, like the light, there was all this light streaming through into the space. And, everyone's perception or experience is slightly different, but you also sense a commonality, and then you go, okay, this is not just my mind playing tricks on me, or right?
Now, I recall once I did an exercise with a group, and we were sitting in a circle, and there was this envelope with a picture in it in the middle of this circle, and we needed to get information what was inside this envelope. It is a really difficult and interesting exercise. And in it, there was a picture of a zebra. And because we were with so many people, some people only saw the white, other people saw something that they interpreted as a place where you cross over, across the street, the black and white stripes. Other people were the information of horses. They're not wrong. We were not wrong.
No.
We all just have a different natural perspective of finding information. And that takes, well, I would say your whole life to discover that and to exercise that and to understand that. What is your natural ability, and how can you exercise the other ones? How can you zoom in or out of a certain space, or in this case, the envelope? How do you do that? You can only do that by practicing and practicing and practicing.
Yeah. I find also, I love that example. That's such a fun, that's a fun game, right?
Yeah.
I find a meditation practice is very helpful in the mornings. Consistently meditating, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes. And, observing what your body is doing, observing your breath, not observing, focusing on a sound, a tone, a humming, observing the thoughts move through. And then what you are able to do is, again, it's related to that window. You're able to peel away, what thoughts are the kind of lower, well, I don't want to use the word lower frequency because that's not the context of this conversation, but you can peel away the distracting thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the exercises that helped me a lot was listening to a tone when you have one of those singing bowls. And then you have to stay with the tone for as long as you can. And when you start, you get on this train of thought, well, even way before the tone is ending. But this is a very good way to extend that, being that vessel and hold the space and the connection with heaven and earth. So if you don't like doing meditation, because well, there are people who find that really boring.
Yeah.
Sit on a chair. You can do it while you're cycling or running or exercising. Just empty your mind and be aware of what your body does and be observer of you.
Yeah.
Because that is a real you.
Yeah.
If you can observe you, then you have something, then you get a taste of what is real and what is distracting.
I love that. Get a sense of what is real and what is distracting. So within the context of our houses then, our properties, let's jump into the topic of then, okay, once we have this base, this capacity to observe ourselves, pull ourselves away, have an awareness of the connectivity, the connectedness of energies within our environment, within our space. Some examples, like what have you encountered? When, like, what would be like a checklist then of, it's a really tricky thing for me to break it down like this because I do it in such an intuitive way that, like, I'm just trying to think, working with properties, I often journey to the property telepathically before I just want to give some grounded examples here. I often journey to the property telepathically in meditation before I set foot on the property. Not always, but I find that this is a method that works really well for me. And it's linked to what you were bringing forth as a really super key piece is the seeing comes last. So something that my architecture colleagues are pretty surprised about is I don't take any photographs of the properties I work on. None. Will one day I may take a photo? Sure, yeah. Like, I'm not saying that's a carved in stone, but I don't take photos generally. So I find tuning into the property telepathically, so this is from a distance, helps me to access the core energies at play. Right? You can probably get a sense of that, and you do that too. You do it as well.
Yeah.
Like all the time, like even whether you like it or not, you probably are already connected to, when you're engaged in any house healing, the information streams through you probably 24/7, right? Yeah. No matter if you're there or not there, right? Because we're connected. We are all connected. And all of us are developing the sixth sense or whatever, like the capacity to communicate telepathically. We all have this gift, but we need to practice it, right? So I'll give you an example. I was tuning into a property telepathically prior to beginning a design project. And what do? I sit, and I often bring, it's not required, but it helps me to create the vessel, a Google map of the property. I print it. I do that. And I lay it in front. You do that too? Yeah. So it helps me to focus. It's almost like, and sometimes I even put it on my altar space for a certain period of time to create the container. I create containers all the time. They're like invisible containers of time, space, and intentions for my clients and that given property. And so I print it out, I lay it in front of me, and I do a deep meditation, a journey. And so I breathe first, I do my alignment with the Axis Mundi, sky and earth. I ask my guides to come in to help. And I ask for the messages, wisdom, inspiration to stream through me for the highest good of my client and the property. And I enter into that window of the unseen realms. It's a more shamanic approach, you could say, but I think, you know, adding that label is not really important. And I listen, I ask questions inwardly, you know, like, has there been any disruption in the original harmonized patterning of the place? Or where, you know, inwardly I'll ask questions, where is the ideal, most optimal location for the house? Although usually I ask that a bit further down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I ask for a picture of the qualities, the energetics of the place.
Yeah.
And in one incident, often, but in one in particular, I encountered the fish spirit. The fish spirit, it was a giant fish laid in my hands and took me through a journey in the underground lakes. It turns out that there's huge caves and underground lakes and water. And the water spirit, the fish, was communicating to me that it was blocked. The flow was blocked at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually a physical road there. But I'm not asking too many questions. I don't want to know too much prior to beginning, right? In
Mm-hmm.
terms of the physicality of the property. And that was causing some issues. And then there are these big protectors of place. And it was a very powerful, and still is a very powerful property with quite a large vortex with a multitude of turning directions. So I get pictures of spirit animals that come in and guide me through. I often get guided through the land by either spirit animals. I mean, dragons showed up as well. Sometimes people, individuals, pictures of incidences that happened. I have experienced some ghosts. I feel like, Nicky, you would have a lot more to talk about in the ghost realm. And I'm excited to hear more about that. So, and it can come, what I want to say is, it can come in so many different packages. You could be handed over a box of popcorn in your vision, or you could be taken on like a magic carpet ride, you know, over a rainbow. It's very, sometimes it can be very humorous. Sometimes it can be a very normal conversation between you and a tree. Very normal conversation, like as if you're having tea with a tree. So I hope that gives a flavor of what's going on.
And then it's about understanding what it means to you, because the information will always show up in a version you will be able to understand. So if you are handed a box of popcorn, you would need to do some research. What does popcorn mean to me? And of course, you know, there are whole Bibles of what symbolic, whatever it means, and that could be helpful. But what means popcorn in the symbolic Bible doesn't necessarily have to be the same for you as a person.
Beautiful.
And a lot of people trap into that mistake, I would say. Use the internet, use it, but find out what it means to you personally, or in that particular situation, or maybe the night before you went to see the movie and the message was actually about the movie and not so much about popcorn. So it
it's
takes
like,
a lot
why
of
did you, yeah.
awareness.
Maybe
And
even the pop turn after you asked a question inwardly, and then you kind of have to understand what the steps before and the steps after and the feeling was, more the inner feeling of receiving the popcorn.
yeah, 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 exactly. And what your intention was with the question, because spirit always communicates in emotions and feelings and images, and it can turn out pretty funny. Because I had a client once with a problem. People always come to me with a problem. There's always a problem. So that's my focus. What is the problem? So the information I need to receive is to fix that problem or show me what the real problem is. And it shows up in very funny ways. In this particular instance, the daughter of the house wasn't feeling at home and noticing spirit activity in the house. And she was the only one in the family of four. And as I do an intake, and then I receive, if they agree to my offer, I ask for pictures, I ask for the address, I ask for a map, and it can even be a map that you draw themselves, just to get these are for me ways to get familiar with the energies at place. It is like a reference. And I always go on Google Maps when I have the address as well, because that helps a lot too. And by writing the invoice, I wrote the wrong street name. And by tuning in, a couple of days after, again, I wrote a wrong street name. And those were, I can't remember what it exactly was, but there was two names that were really similar. So I go to it happened 3 times. So then it's not an accident anymore, then it's a message. So I go on this consultation with this family, and we went through the house and we did all kinds of processes, and they have to tell their stories, but I was still with this address. So I asked, what is it with this address? And as soon as I spoke that, within 3 seconds, the whole family was crying. And I was like, okay, what did I say? Okay, that was the key information, because a friend of the family used to live in that street. And the problem they experienced had to do with the spirit activity of this person. There was an unresolved issue between the mother and this spirit. So that for me was one of the very first times that happened. So it was a huge lesson for me that I should trust my intuition. And if I had asked that, at the beginning of the session, it might have been too early, but I should not be afraid to speak up. Yeah. Another example was a gym I worked with, and they had problems with clients in the evening. Gyms can be attracting to negative people, so to say, with doing all kinds of shady stuff. And the owner of the gym didn't want those people in the gym anymore, so that was a problem. So I sit down with all the information, and what I got was something that looked like a cigarette that is a burning cigarette, but it wasn't a cigarette. Is this an inward vision? In my meditation or in my zone, I'm not always not sure what to call it. In my whatever, in my receiving vessel mode.
Yeah.
And I thought, what is this image? Because I didn't know what to do with it. So I talked to the owner of the place, and I said, well, okay, this is the information I got. This I get, this I get, this I get. But this image, it looks like a cigarette. And he started to laugh so loud. And he said, do you know, this used to be a factory where they work with iron. So it was actually a message from the original place. And the problem was that they forgot to tell this place, this building, that it changed function from a factory, you know, with metal and all kinds of, I can't find the English word, smederij. And now it was a gym, which is totally different.
Like a blacksmith. Are you talking about a blacksmith?
Yeah, blacksmith. It's totally different. Yeah. But there was an issue with that. So again, you know, that taught me that I should always trust the images. And sometimes it is, even for the client, difficult to recognize. These are really clear signs, but sometimes you can't always find what it is, and then it comes weeks after. Or in some cases, I get emails years after. Oh, and you said this and this then, and now I know what it means. So always speak up, make notes if you want, so you don't forget. It might come back, but I always trust you will always have access to the information at the right time. As long as you trust that, you'll be fine. But it all starts with awareness. And don't
absolutely
and not dismissing, like, oh, this is crazy. I shouldn't mention that.
Well, I'm actually thinking of a situation I was in where I received information about a murder. And I held back for a while. This was when I was first starting out. And I held back with that information. I wasn't sure if it was the right piece of information to share within the given context. And later I did, and you know, it was a point that was going to later be investigated a bit more. So, but yeah, listen to the first intuition. Listen to the first intuition. Yeah. And I love that piece about the old function and the new function, you know, thinking about all the energetic patterning that occurs, that gets laid down from the old function and the new function. I'm thinking about two images come to mind is there are some houses that are converted old churches in Canada, in Ontario, where we used to live. You know, you're looking at this house that's converted for the old church, and it always gives me like a bump, right? Like I'm always just like, okay. And it's usually like a smaller chapel, although I've seen larger ones in the city in Toronto. Yeah, like an abbey is converted into condos or something, condominiums, and you know, that is most definitely a big piece to investigate. I wonder, you know, questions. Do a lot of the residents sleep well? You know, it may be okay. But yeah, these overlays of energetic patterns, it's another piece that you and I, Nikki, as geomancers and space healers, land healers, we really do need to be able to peel away, right? So, because everything, the experience is usually for the clients all like jumbled up, like, oh, why is my business not attracting clients? Or why do I keep on tripping over this particular step? Or why do I, right? Like things happen to them. And it's our job to really peel away the energetic overlays and understand which energies are part of the orchestra, you could say, of the property.
Yeah. And it doesn't always have to be a problem. You know,
Yeah.
You know, if there's not a problem, don't fix it. You know, just notice it and then it's fine. So it doesn't have to be a problem to live in a reconverted chapel.
Yeah.
It becomes a problem and you don't feel at home. Then it's a problem.
And I just thought of, like, if there's somebody, I mean, if it was a very pure space, lots of prayer is done there. Prayer is a powerful tool. Consistent prayer, singing, voice. I mean, in itself, like, you know, ideally, churches are in a constant cleansing state mode, right? The bell of the church, right? Steeple cleanses the whole town, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the ezan in Turkey, the call to prayer 5 times a day, cleanses the town if the voice is good, because we encounter some voices that are not so great, but that is the intention, the cleansing. It breaks up the patterning and the calcified forms, breaks it up, spreads it out, and allows the energies to move into the light or into the earth or whatever. So yeah, ideally, right? The church actually is quite a pure, clear space, ideally. And if there is a soul that has that similar frequency and is living there, you know, it might be a match made in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or it might teach you something. It might heal you.
If there's a problem, there's always a lesson, of course.
Yeah.
You're there for a reason, and either you're there to free the house of something, or the house is there to teach you something, and maybe it's the same thing.
So how else can, based on the question that you received last week, what other ways would be, you know, signs of receiving information about your space? You know, does it always have to be while in meditation? I love, for example, the way you talk about working with your clients, and I realized I work in quite a similar way, where sometimes information simply streams through the conversation between you and your client. Another piece for me too is often information will come through my client's dreams. So it's interesting, as the architect, more and more I'm relinquishing control and allowing the messages to come through my clients, or perhaps their relations, their animals, right? Like, a whole bunch of synchronicities do start to happen once you relinquish that control. Right? It's not only through meditation.
You have to pay attention for the patterns, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So sometimes when you talk to a client, and you must know that there is a story, and then there is another story that seems totally unrelated, but they have the same pattern. Either in events, or in how they tell it, or similar situations, or they don't even realize it, that there is a problem in the work area, but they have that with their kids as well. But it appears totally different in the kind of problem, but you'll be able to sense this exactly the same energy. So then you can talk about analogies, and then you have to have, you know, all your dictionaries and talking skills to make the person aware of their pattern. And then you start to see that this pattern, what is representing, in my case, always the issue, instead of you work with people who have a wish they want to manifest, which is a different approach. But if there's a problem, you will see it also manifest in, I don't know, the decoration they have in their homes, for instance, or boundaries is a good example. Boundaries are a common issue with a lot of people. They're either too thick or too thin. And it can be a complaint that, they have always people coming over in their house, but they don't really want that. They're not comfortable with people coming in all the time. And then you start to notice, if you get to know them a little bit better through the conversation, that they do the same thing in their relationships. They're overshadowed by when their boundaries are not strong enough for the person they would like to be. Or it's the other way around. They have such thick walls built around them, and they would love to have people coming over, but nobody wants to come.
It's like cobwebs are growing on the
and they have
door.
this internal wish. I wish, people would come over, but I always have to go out. And then when you start to look at the house, I had once a case with there was a person who was having people over all of the time, and her house, the front door she didn't have a front yard, so there was right up. It was right on the street. So there was no space between the outer world, and there was no. And she was really sensitive to that, but it was also a lesson, because it was really physical. She could see, okay, my house even represents how I behave. So that's why I always talk about this resonance. Okay, why did you choose the house? Well, it was a nice place, and it has a big yard, and we have 3 bedrooms, and all kinds of rational thoughts come, but they never choose a house without a front yard because they don't have enough boundary or something.
Yeah.
So what you could do in this case, I advise her to put, on the entrance, you can put a couple of plants on the side of the door, and if you place them with intention, you have not a front yard, but you have an extra boundary, an extra threshold that has just a little bit extra. And it was also, again, in the Dutch houses, you have a lot of you enter the front door and then you have a hallway. In American houses, very narrow. But in American houses, you have the doorway, and you're right in the living room.
Well, sometimes, yes, yeah.
Sometimes, but she didn't have a hallway. You were entering immediately. So again, there was not enough space.
Buffer.
There was not room. There was not enough room to have this boundary. Also not in the physical in this house.
Yeah.
So the more you learn, the more you see, the more signs you can pick up, and you can start by what is your natural interest. If
go ahead.
If that is looking at how long the flowers are alive in your house, is also a sign. It could be anything. It doesn't always have to be you sitting down getting information in a meditation. It really helps. The best way to notice the difference is leave the property, find a space where you feel okay, in yourself, and then enter. And then you will notice how your body changes, because when you enter, when you're crossing a border, that's the most interesting place, because there is where the energy shifts.
Yeah.
So if you are trained to watch your senses, you'll notice what changes within your body. And that is a clear sign of what the energy is like in that space. So if you are in a good place and you feel even better, that's perfect. If you're in a good place and you feel, then there's room for improvement.
Yeah.
But if you are constantly always in the same space, you won't be able to feel the difference anymore, because you feel always.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to step out, right? And come back in.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of my clients tell me. I go on vacation and I sleep fine, and then I get home and then I'm.
Yeah. And then within the house as well, within the property, I invite, I myself do it, and I invite my clients to do it, to investigate the different spaces within the property as well.
Yes, of course.
I'm sure you do the same thing, right? The attic versus the basement, the living room versus the, and you get into the details. And really just start journaling the experience, the feeling. And again, catch that first micro millisecond window of intuition that comes through, and really listen to your body, listen to your gut, listen. We all have different sensing. I have been discovering human design recently, and I mean, there's a play, you could look at the Enneagram, you could look at so many things, but we're all very different from each other, and we sense in different ways. So for some people to hear, listen to your gut, they're like, I don't get it. My gut doesn't tell me anything, right? So you might be hearing, you might get, a scratch on your nose or something. I don't know. Like there's a whole, just open the possibilities for feeling. I feel a lot, and that's probably a lot from my experiences with Marco Pogachnik and doing, some his exercises, and experience of being there with the group in Finland once. But I feel a lot of things in the backspace.
Yeah.
A lot in my backspace, I find, and behind my heart. Not necessarily in front my heart. Like we're very like, we're expecting everything to be in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes a lot of messages come from behind us. There are portals behind us opening up. I don't know why I keep on doing this, but
yeah. Especially here, so here, this spot.
Yes.
Here. It's a very sensitive spot. But also with a number of people, it is really thick. There is nothing going through there.
Yeah. We have some comments coming in. Client burnout. Kleuren, is that your name? I don't.
That's Fenneke. I know her. Kleur and vorm, means color and shape.
So working with housing as well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, beautiful. I can't read. It's hard to read all these comments on the phone.
Yeah, she says we had to sell our house, but our house didn't want us to leave.
I'm sure your house moved you. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you do? Well, do you listen to the house, or do you listen to your life and what you want?
Well, and I think those moments are really for ceremony, moments for ceremony.
Yeah.
I work a lot with ceremony. In fact, my entire design structure is based on one big ceremony, actually. My entire, when you work with me, you enter into one big fat ceremony. And I'm sure you know, if you're working with houses and energies, you probably know that ceremonies not only create proper beginnings, but they also create proper endings. And we really do need to learn more and more from the ancient ones how to learn to open the circle and close the circle, enter the circle and close the circle. And I would say, you know, when you're moving, even if it's a rental, I always do make a prayer upon leaving the house and giving thanks and gratitude, asking the house if it has any messages for me that I may take on my journey to the next place, and do a proper ceremony of thanks and closing and intention, and perhaps cord cutting if necessary. We may be taking our houses with us, properties with us on the plane, or
that happens a lot. That happens a lot. I come across that a lot. And yeah, cord cutting is a whole new subject. Because if it's with houses, it depends on what everything is involved, because it needs to be cut both ways.
Maybe that's a topic we pick up on another.
Yeah, on another one. That is a big one.
Yeah.
It's not easily, you know, done like that. 9 out of 10 times. Oh, I lost you. I'm trying to watch some comments, but my keyboard is coming up every time.
Oh, I'm sorry about your house. I didn't want to leave. We designed it ourselves. She was wonderful. My husband lost his job. That's what a story. We get, you know, how our houses are really a part of ourselves, right? They're an extension of ourselves. And some people, of course, depends. Some people don't enjoy being attached to any place and they're more travelers. But I'm most definitely someone who loves to nestle into my space, and
yeah, me too. Me too. I've met some people who don't have the need for putting roots down as much. They are really comfortable, and they are really, wherever they hang their hat, their home.
Yeah.
And, yeah, those people there are, but they have all other kinds of issues. And then you have to use a different mirror, maybe not so much the house, but maybe their body.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, Nicky, thank you for hosting me.
Yeah, I think it's about a wrap. You've been going on an hour already.
Yeah, it was a really good conversation. I hope it was helpful for everyone. Please send us any questions, messages, anything you'd like us to talk about. And don't forget, sign up for the Sacred Blueprint interview series. Starts March 14th. It's an 8-day back-to-back international series about how to build healing sanctuaries with the wisdom of nature. And we've got amazing lineup of guests, from feng shui experts to someone who's in Russia building, you know, bioarchitecture and sustainable systems, and architects who are weaving in spiritual wisdom, space alchemist, interior designer who takes a really soulful approach. So please join the sacredblueprintseries.com and get your free ticket. It's a Zoom event, and I look forward to seeing you all there.
Okay. Well, talk to you in the next round then, and I'm sure we'll be there in the Sacred Blueprint.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank
Have
you.
a good day,
Have a great
everyone.
rest of the day.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye-bye.